The most interesting thing about MrBeast is not that he gives money away. It is that he appears to have built one of the most aggressive wealth machines in modern media by acting for years as if keeping cash for himself was almost beside the point. That sounds backwards. Usually when people get famous, the money starts leaving the business and entering the lifestyle. With MrBeast, the pattern seems to run in the opposite direction. The audience got bigger, the budgets got crazier, the giveaways got louder, and the real financial story was hiding underneath all of it. This is not really a story about internet fame. It is a story about what happens when someone realizes that attention is valuable, but ownership is worth much more. Jimmy Donaldson, better known as MrBeast, matters financially for one reason above all others. He did not stop at becoming a giant creator. He tried to turn creator income into an actual company with media, consumer products, and now even newer expansion moves beyond pure entertainment. Public reporting suggests Beast Industries generated about $473 million in revenue in 2024, up sharply from the year before. And in January 2026, the company announced a $200 million investment from Bitmine at a $5 billion valuation. The exact figure of MrBeast's personal net worth is still debated in public, but the more important point is clearer than any celebrity rich list estimate. A large share of his economic value appears to sit inside the business he built, not just in personal cash compensation. That distinction is the whole story. At first, his money engine looked familiar. Viral videos, platform revenue, sponsorships, massive scale. Public reports suggest brands have paid roughly $2.5 million to $3 million for integrations, and his company now draws billions of monthly views across a global audience. That is already a serious business, but it is still only stage one. Plenty of creators earn extraordinary money by renting access to attention. Ads pay them, sponsors pay them, platforms surface them. That can make someone rich, but it usually leaves them exposed because the platform owns the audience relationship more than the creator does, and the income depends on continuing to perform at a punishing pace. MrBeast appears to have seen that trap earlier than most. He did not just want to monetize attention, he wanted to convert it into something he could own. That is where the financial story becomes much more interesting. The smartest move was not a stunt, not a brand deal, not even a single viral video. It was the decision to treat the content business less like the end product and more like the top of a funnel. In other words, the videos were not only there to make money themselves, they were there to make everything else more valuable. The giveaways built reach, the reach built trust, the trust built demand, and demand could then be redirected into products and businesses MrBeast actually owned. Once you see that, the whole empire looks different. He was not simply making expensive entertainment, he was building distribution for assets sitting behind the entertainment. That is a much more durable financial model than chasing ad checks forever. The clearest proof was Feastables. When it launched in early 2022, it didn't look like a lazy celebrity side business slapped onto a familiar face. MrBeast brought in Jim Murray, the former president of RX Bar, to help lead the strategy. That matters because it signals intent. He was not pretending to be a snack executive. He was building a company with people who actually knew how to operate one. Public reports now suggest Feastables has become the strongest economic engine inside Beast Industries. Bloomberg reported that the brand generated about $250 million in sales in 2024 and more than $20 million in profit. Business Insider reported net revenue of about $215 million that same year. The exact figure depends on the source, but the pattern is consistent. The business promoted by the videos appears to have become more financially attractive than the videos themselves. That is not creator economics in the usual sense. That is brand building turning into ownership. And that answers the first big question. How did MrBeast actually make money? He made money first the way elite creators do, by mastering attention at almost absurd scale. Then he made better money by redirecting that attention into products he controlled. Bloomberg reported that Beast Industries' media business, including YouTube and the Amazon show, produced sales on a similar scale to Feastables, but lost almost $80 million over the same period that the chocolate business turned a profit. That comparison is revealing. Media created spectacle. Consumer products captured margin. One side was louder. The other side was healthier. One side won views. The other side started to look like real operating leverage. Public reports suggest that by the middle of this expansion phase, the most valuable thing MrBeast had built was no longer just a channel. It was a system that could use the channel to make other businesses stronger. That shift only happened because of the central financial decision in this story: reinvest instead of extract. MrBeast has repeatedly said that although he is a billionaire on paper, he keeps less than $1 million in his actual bank account because he reinvests almost everything back into content and growth. Public reporting has also described how tightly controlled that cash is, with his mother overseeing access to the bank accounts and senior finance help around the business. Whether one agrees with that style or not, it reveals something important. He did not use rising fame as permission to drain the machine. He treated cash flow as fuel. Most people who suddenly find themselves making enormous sums start optimizing for lifestyle. He seems to have optimized for compounding. That does not make the approach safe, but it does make it unusually coherent. That is also why the big numbers need translation. Revenue alone can mislead. A $473 million company sounds like instant wealth. But revenue is not ownership value, and ownership value is not liquid cash. Likewise, a $5 billion valuation sounds final and certain, but valuations are not bank balances. They are judgments about future potential. The more useful insight is simpler. MrBeast appears to have spent years using today's attention to buy tomorrow's optionality. Every oversized video budget, every dub into more languages, every obsessive effort to scale distribution internationally seems to fit the same model. Get bigger now so the things you own later become harder to ignore. That is not the mindset of someone trying to maximize this quarter's paycheck. It is the mindset of someone trying to build an ecosystem before the market fully prices it in. Now for the risky part, because this story is not clean. If Feastables is the strongest example of financial intelligence, Beast Games is probably the strongest example of controlled recklessness. Public reports put the first season's budget at around $100 million. Amazon said the show reached 50 million viewers in its first 25 days and became Prime Video's most watched unscripted series ever, later earning more renewals. Those are huge outcomes. But MrBeast also said he lost tens of millions of dollars on the project because he overspent to make it as good as possible. That is an extraordinary sentence. Most people hear record viewership and assume profit.
His model seems more complicated than that. He was willing to absorb financial pain in exchange for strategic proof that a creator-built spectacle could survive on a global streaming platform and stretch the brand beyond YouTube. It may have been a bad short-term financial decision. It may also have been exactly the sort of expensive signal that expands long-term leverage. But the clearest warning sign in his story was probably MrBeast Burger. This is the point where the empire stops looking like pure momentum and starts teaching a harder lesson. In 2023, MrBeast sued the company behind the burger venture, claiming the food quality was poor and harmful to his reputation. The partner later countersued for $100 million. The legal and financial outcome is more complicated than any simple headline, and some details remain contested. But the principle is still obvious. You can own the audience and still damage the business if you do not control the customer experience attached to your name. In media, loose partnerships can be survivable. In consumer businesses, they can become expensive. Burger looked like scale without enough control. Feastables look like scale with structure. That contrast may be the single best clue to how MrBeast's business mind actually works. He seems comfortable betting big, but the bets work better when the operating control is real. And that leads to the deeper psychology. MrBeast does not look, financially, like a traditional celebrity. He does not even fully look like a normal entrepreneur. He looks more like an operator who happens to use spectacle as customer acquisition. That is a different species of wealth building. The philanthropy, the giant prizes, the explosive scale of the videos, all of that is visible. What is less visible is the mindset underneath it. He appears obsessed with systems, reinvestment, packaging, translation, retention, and quality control. Even public reporting on his schedule reinforces the same image. Long days, relentless involvement, and very little separation between creative output and business design. He is not simply performing success. He seems to be engineering a flywheel, and once a flywheel starts working, the individual pieces matter less than the compounding motion between them. The practical lesson for viewers is not become MrBeast. That would be useless advice. The real lesson is much more transferable. High income is not the same as durable wealth. Distribution you rent is not as powerful as distribution you own. Reinvestment is only intelligent when it strengthens an asset instead of feeding vanity. And brand extensions are only attractive when control is strong enough to protect quality. In MrBeast's case, the quietest idea was the biggest one. Use one business to feed another business you own more deeply. A lot of people spend their best years maximizing income from the thing they do. The more powerful move is often to use that income to build a system around the thing they do. That is how labor starts turning into leverage. So was MrBeast simply highly paid or genuinely financially smart? Based on public reporting, he looks financially smart in a very specific, very modern way. Not because every move worked, clearly they did not. Not because he avoided risk, clearly he did not. He looks smart because he seems to understand a brutal truth that many famous people learn too late. Fame is unstable, platforms are rented, and cash flow can disappear the moment the audience gets bored. Ownership changes that equation. MrBeast's most important financial move was realizing that the giveaway was never the real business. The real business was using the giveaway and the spectacle and the obsession with scale to build things that might still matter even after the algorithm moves on. That is why his money story is bigger than his headline numbers. The numbers are impressive, the structure is what matters. And the more interesting question now is not how much he is worth today. It is whether this machine keeps getting stronger when the easy growth phase is gone. That is where the real verdict on the strategy will come from. And the next financial story worth breaking down is probably hiding in plain sight the same way this one was.